Hi, welcome to The Late Show with Jimmy Fallon. This is my special guest, Clint Eastwood. How are you doing, Clint?
Good, how are you?
Mighty fine. We are doing a special segment of how your life was influential and go deeper into your childhood and what made yourself. You ready for some questions?
Go ahead, make my day.
Go ahead, make my day.
So, what was the setting of your birth and your childhood?
Well, I was born on May 31st, 1930 at St. Francis Hospital in San Francisco.
And do you have any siblings?
I have a sister named Jean. She was born May 1934.
Did you like your family or did you have any problems?
Well, my father worked very hard. It was the 1930s, and so it was hard to come by work. I remember one time where my family had to pick up and leave all the way across the Pacific Palisades near Malibu just so my father could work as a gas station attendant.
So you guys were not wealthy at all. You were poor and went through many hardships.
Yes, we had to hold on to any jobs we could, and normally those jobs weren't high paying at all.
Alright. So, were there any memorable incidences in your childhood that affect you and made yourself you today?
Well, yes, it's actually very ironic. When I was in middle school, Piedmont Middle School, I was forced into an acting career as a play, the lead acting role. And I was horrible at it, and I swore I would never act again.
So, in the beginning, you never wanted to be an actor?
No, never at all. I actually was more inclined to want to be a jazz musician.
Do you still enjoy music today?
Of course, I mean, jazz is my favorite.
Were there any hardships or downfalls that affected your life?
Well, yes, I had many, one of which was my family. I've been divorced, and I've also had many acting hardships. As you know, my first big break in acting was on the show Rawhide. It was a show about cattle ranching, and I became associated with that, and it was hard for me to break free of that role as Rowdy Yates. And the company, the producing company, didn't want me out of that role, so it was hard to break free of my acting and branch out into more emotional roles.
So, with that role in Rawhide, and through the publicity, could you find other work, or did the public and the people see you as one character and you couldn't break out?
Well, it was very hard for me, and then I was going from small job to small job, acting as a party attraction as Rowdy Yates for children. But then I had my big break with Sergio Leone on A Fistful of Dollars.
Okay, so as you grew up, your adult life, you grew much richer and much more famous. How was that for you?
Well, I became more well-known. It was easier for me. Money wasn't really an issue anymore. I could provide for my wife now. I bought a new house near Monterey area, and I became more well-known, so it was easier for me to get acting jobs. And eventually I started my own directing company.
At this point, did you have any children, or were your relationships a little skewed?
Well, I really didn't want any children with my first wife, but I did have an illegitimate son with an actress on the set.
How many children do you have?
Well, I have 7 children.
Do you like them?
I love all 7 of them.
Good man. So, what schools did you go to?
Well, my first official school was Piedmont Junior High School. And from there, I went to Piedmont High School. And then I couldn't finish, so I had to go to a technical finishing school.
Okay. What was your first marriage like?
Well, my first marriage was with Maggie Johnson. And Maggie and I had an understanding about what our relationship was about. We were 2 independent people, not always together or always one. And I respected her greatly for that, because she understood that what I did when I made my movies was my life, and we're very separate people.
So, what do you find your greatest successes in family, movies, culture? What are your greatest successes?
Well, I'd actually consider one of my greatest successes to be my directing career more than my acting career. Just because it was, back then, when I first started out, it was very hard for an actor to also be a director because they were well known for going over the budget. universal, so they didn't really care for that. So I eventually decided to teach them that their way of directing was wrong, that they didn't need 23-man crews and $1 million budget to film a movie. If it was just me and a pen and a piece of paper, we were in business.
Nice. That's the way to do it. So, are there any other interesting things about you?
Well, I've been nominated for multiple Oscars, and I think one of my greatest successes is also my family. I have 7 children. I love every single one of them, and they're my greatest treasure.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
What is your favorite movie you've ever done?
Well, I'd have to say, it's hard for me to choose because I've done so many, but I'd have to say my favorite one would probably have to be Hang 'em High, just because it was my movie, I got to direct it, I got to control it, and it was ultimately my project.
One more thing. Can we get a famous Clint Eastwood quote?
Well, the question you gotta ask yourself is, do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk?
You've got to ask yourself one question. Do I feel lucky? Well, do you, punk? Well, do you, punk?
Get 3 coffins ready.
Get 3 coffins ready. I think it's great. It's history making.
Time out.